August continues the Centers for Spiritual Living theme of spirituality in action for the year. And for this month, it's respect other nations and peoples. The value for the month is gratitude. And today we're talking about multicultural magnificence. This is the divine reality of it. Multicultural magnificence. It does not appear to be the present small r reality, does it? I don't know how many more weeks we can have our hearts broken with children getting killed. I don't know how much more of this falling apart can happen before we finally allow the emergence of love to reign over the fear, the mistrust, the hatred. But I know that everything is breaking down as it needs to. Our infrastructure in so many ways is breaking down. It's a good thing. That is a good thing. That things are changing, the times they are changing, and we cannot believe too much or put our energy too completely into the things that are tearing our hearts open, because we become lame and unable to provide the solutions. We must maintain the high watch while we're doing what we're guided to do to help and to make a difference. This mistrust, this us and them, has to change. Our institutions are changing. You might notice the medical system, the financial institutions, things are changing, they must. And our belief systems are rocking, because it's very challenging to live in a world that seems so unfair and filled with hate. We've got to go back to our reality and recognize that this beautiful diversity is something to celebrate and to honor and to appreciate. As Raymond Charles Barker said, life is the action of spirit. God is never bored. The infinite is forever mind creating new ideas, new concepts, new purposes. The infinite never repeats itself. Why do we hang on so tightly to the way we think things have to be? Why do we continue beliefs that are painful, hurtful to ourselves and to other people, when there are new ideas and new concepts ready to be born? For each precious being is an unrepeatable miracle. Each of us and every sentient being in the world is a miraculous manifestation of infinite mind. Let's treasure, love, honor, be interested in those beautiful expressions of divine light. And let's begin as we did last week with our own precious uniqueness. I'm not sure how we can honor other people if we're not really honoring ourselves. And so we do love and bless our own divine gifts, unlike anyone else's. Really appreciate ourselves. I think a lot of the people who are doing terrible things in the world haven't learned to love themselves. Years ago, when I was doing a prison ministry in Northern California, I was always sent to the men's modules because I was in a full-time pulpit at the time, and the chaplain in the prison knew I had only so much time each week. So he said, Maxine, there's the men's modules, the women's modules, and you only have so much time. I'm sending you to the men's modules because I think they'll see you as the good mother. And I can remember being just blown away by hearing some of the men's stories. And in our interactions, in our groups, I realized that sometimes some of the positive things I would say to them may have been the very first positive things that had ever been said to them in their entire lives. How can we care about other people when we haven't learned that we're precious beings ourselves, and we're valuable, and we are worthwhile? It isn't until we fill up our own cups that we have enough to share with others and help to fill their cups as well. Until you and I accept our own particular version of our spiritual magnificence, it's not so easy to see another person's spiritual magnificence. Isn't that what we're about here? To awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence? Do you still believe, with everything that we've noticed in the world going on, that we are able to awaken to our spiritual magnificence? I do too. Could I hear a bigger yes, please? Are we aware that we can still awaken and awaken each other to our spiritual magnificence? Good. You see, we must continue that high watch. We must continue to do what we are able and willing to do to bring heaven on earth. Don't you want to live in heaven on earth? We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones who are co-creating this along with millions, not just thousands, but millions of other light workers. And when we allow ourselves to get too much down into, oh my God, how can there be another one of those? We need to feel what we're feeling for sure. And then we need to rise up. All rise to a higher level of consciousness. So when we deepen our connection with Spirit, and that's a daily practice, my beloveds, deepening our connection with Spirit, it opens us up to a true celebration of the variety of life in this life. People, beautiful people, have different ways of being and living on the planet. Seek first to understand. Let's remember to seek first to understand, instead of making an instant judgment or criticism. Some of you may know that in my very first center in Alamo, California, there was a beloved lady in her 90s who had been a practitioner for a number of years. And sweet Anna had no judgment about anybody ever. And several of us were at a combined activity in the area of Northern California. I forget what it was we attended, but there were all kinds of people there, including some teens who happened to be sitting at the table where we were. And I noticed a few people walking by, like a tisk, tisk, tisk. Do people still say tisk, tisk, tisk? Because they were tatted and they were pierced. And Anna was engaged in conversation with these young people. And she was just in love with them. She was always able to see the divine within anyone. And she turned to me and she said, "Aren't they interesting?" We can do this, you see, and celebrate the way people tend to show up in the world. If that's God calling, will you please tell her we're on it? Seek first to understand the different customs. I came across something that I want to share with you that I found really fascinating. Do you know that in Japan and in South Korea, tipping is an insult? People feel as though they are doing their jobs well, they came to do their jobs, and that's all that's necessary, and they're insulted if you attempt to tip them. Did you know that in Australia and New Zealand and Scotland and Holland and perhaps parts of Ireland, Anne can tell us this, when you take a taxi, you're expected to sit in the front seat. Because if you just get in the back and they're driving Miss Daisy, they feel as though you think they're better than you are, the taxi driver. Interesting. All right, what else? Oh, in the Middle East, South America, West Africa, Russia, and Greece, thumbs up is not a nice gesture. Did you know that? It's another digit that represents. Here's something I love. In Germany, arriving late is a great insult. Whereas in Argentina, it's good to be a bit late. Different customs in different countries and cultures. In the Middle East, it is rude to decline food that is offered. That would be tough for a vegan, I think. In some places. And here's another contrast. In China, now tell me if this is true, Katie. She's upstairs. China, Philippines, Thailand, Russia. Don't eat all the food on your plate if you're visiting in these countries, or the host will feel ashamed for not having provided enough for you. Let's get to know people's customs if we're going to spend any time with them. Let's find out what's important to them, what their traditions are, and be interested in them and appreciate them. And not offend them. I mean, you can be offended in so many different languages. And we do our best not to insult people. And it's helpful to know what that might be with that group. But then, of course, we're always going to remember that everyone smiles in the same language. And that is never anything but accepted gratefully. Far as I know. Gratitude for our unity includes thankfulness for our diversity. We look into each other's souls to find the divine oneness. And while we're looking into each other's souls to experience our union with one another, we also appreciate the way Spirit shows up so beautifully, so interestingly, so uniquely, in such a variety of ways, customs, and traditions. Yeah, our minds continue to be stunned, and our hearts keep getting broken by the events in the world. It's time to address the underlying hatred and fear and shift to understanding and love. Because we must remember there are not two powers. There is one power. It is God's power. It is a power for good. Does evil exist in the world? Obviously. But it's not an entity of itself. It's something that human beings, having been given the power of choice, tend to create by misunderstanding, by misconceiving, by not being willing to open our hearts enough to understand what's important to another person and to realize there is plenty for everyone. We don't have to hold on to something. We can realize that there is an abundance of love and understanding. There's an abundance of water and clean air. There's an abundance of food. There is an abundance of everything we need. Once we ultimately come to that place of the acceptance of the divine within this world, within ourselves, and within one another, we're going to want to share with everyone. We must get beyond the fear and the hatred and come into that oneness and realize evil is just something that has erroneously been created by people. We don't even get to feel blame for the evil that's going on in the world, even though we're all one in humanness and human consciousness. We are not responsible for all the ills that have taken place, but we are responsible for seeing beyond to the truth. We are responsible to raise our consciousness and reach hands out to one another to help each other to lift our consciousness as well. We want to shift all of that to understanding and to love. And stand for it. Be a stand for it wherever we are. Whatever we hear, whatever we see, whatever may be going on around us. Starting, how about in our own families? You ever have a fuss with anyone in your family? Have you ever considered that maybe they have a point of view that's different from yours, but it's okay and it's valid? Let's start with the small circles as we expand into the larger circles of all of humankind. Let's seek first to understand. Ask someone, well, why is it that you feel that way? I know your opinion is different from mine about this subject, whatever the subject may be. Help me understand what's meaningful to you about that. And then listen with your heart open as I share with you what's significant to me about it. And maybe we'll meet somewhere in that beautiful, beautiful meadow where there aren't any differences except the ones we appreciate. There aren't any differences that create animosity or problems. But we just lie down in that field and love each other. Just love each other. That's powerful. Don't you see the power of love is greater than the love of power? And we can't get that upset about the love of power we see going on, because the power of love is always greater than that. And Emmett Fox said in the end of his wonderful poem about love, if only you could love enough, you would be the most powerful being in the world. That's the kind of power I want us to remember and to experience and to share with each other. We really must become genuinely interested in other people. Genuinely interested. Instead of looking askance or going tisk tisk. We must really learn from them. There are things we can learn from people. It was really sweet. When we were in Manhattan, it was raining and the kids didn't care. They were having such a good time. And we ducked into a Starbucks for a little while. And here is this smiley-faced man, beautiful African-American man, who we were just drawn to. And speaking of drawn to, he was a wonderful artist. And he was drawing like a caricature and gave it to my granddaughter, Hope. And the two of them struck up a conversation. We went out and we did some things. We came back later to the same Starbucks for refuge. He was still there. And his name was Kevin Miles. And he's about to go to the Art Institute in California. And so he was talking with Chris, and he asked Chris, no, that's the other grandson. He was talking to Grant, and I have many grandchildren, thank you. And they struck up a conversation, and Kevin asked Grant if he would like him to draw his caricature. Sure. So he pulled out a picture of when he had been camping recently, and he did that, and it was the sweetest thing. It was so fun. Kids went home with these wonderful caricatures that were done by a man who's going to be famous one day, and they'll say, I've got his artwork. And then it was so cute. I took pictures with Kevin and the kids, and each time we would leave, Kevin and Grant, the 17-year-old, would do this fist bump slidey thing. Does that have a name? It's so cool. It's like brothers. Brothers. We are brothers and sisters. We want to learn from people. We want to understand and love and cherish each other. That is the antidote to the poisonous activities going on out there. That's the antidote. You and I have it right here. So rather than get ourselves too lost in the ain't it awful and when is this going to stop? And I understand it because we all feel it from time to time. But rather than getting lost and stuck in it, we have to rise up. Bless you. We have to rise up to the truth because these are facts out there, and facts don't last any more than the fact that the earth was once flat lasted. The facts go away. The things that develop in the world and in our lives come and go. Forms change. They're intended to. Even institutions, as we were saying, change. But underlying that, there's a beautiful life. It's God's life. It's ours. We were created from it. We're here as co-creators to make our lives and our world beautiful. So fear has to give way to love. Distrust can be replaced by gratitude. How can I wish harm to another person when I know we are intertwined? I can't possibly. So let's help each other come to that place where we know we are so intertwined that we could never harm another person. Years and years ago, there was a minister who was speaking about something very much like this. And a very creative man in his congregation instantly came up with a song. And he had everybody singing it. And it was simply, we are born together and finely woven with, born together and finely woven with, born together and finely woven with love. Take it. Oh, we are born together and finely woven with, born together and finely woven with, born together and finely woven with love. Now look at someone near you and sing it to them. Oh, we are born together and finely woven with, born together and finely woven with, born together and finely woven with love. Oh, actually, it's a handshake song. Try that. Oh, we are born together and finely woven with, born together and finely woven with, born together and finely woven with love. And then the last verse will be when we're having our refreshments. It becomes a hug song. Okay? That's your assignment. Ernest Holmes, from his meditations in the back of the Science of Mind, which we call the textbook, says the circle of love is complete. It comprehends all, includes all, and binds all together with cords of everlasting unity. I cannot depart from its presence or wander from its care. My love is complete within me. Will you say with me, I respect all sentient beings. I appreciate all people. I admire all forms of life. I celebrate universal unity. I rejoice in delightful diversity. And so, my beloveds, beginneth our lesson.